Good morning. We'd like to call this meeting to order and start off with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You can come in.
It's a public meeting. Have a seat.
All right. So we had two topics that were tabled. One being the decision on the fire department, and the other was the actual budget. So I'm guessing we do roll call,
Well,
right?
we have, we have to untable everything first, but do either one of you guys want to speak on behalf of either one of these items? Or are you just here to watch?
No, I was going to speak, actually.
So can we take care of that portion
Sure.
before we start?
Sure,
So I'll
by
make
all
a
means.
motion that we open the meeting to the public for just to talk on those two specific items.
Well, we should do roll call first, then open the
Oh,
meeting.
roll,
Well, that's what I asked. I wasn't sure if you wanted to go right to the, so roll call?
Councilwoman Albrecht. Here. Councilman Mazzella. Here. Councilman O'Hanlon.
Here.
Councilman Reifenberg.
here?
Supervisor Del Vecchio.
Here.
Town Attorney Emily Svensson. Here. All present.
So we have a motion to open the meeting up to public comment. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
The floor is yours, folks. Barbie, you need to go over here. And state your name, where you live.
I'm short, sorry. Barbara Oaks, I live on Dower Road. And I guess the reason I'm here is just to give some information and to find out, like, what is really going on with the ambulance contract, since it's been a little grumblings, but we know nothing. And I don't know why we don't know anything. I mean, we just heard that, the contract was due, which we know, this is always happening every year. There's always a contract due. But usually there's talk about, things, but there was no talk about things. So all of the pieces we heard was that it's going to go 24/7, it's not going to go 24/7, it's going to go different hours. So I'm here to give you some information. That's all I'm here for. I don't know anything about what's going on, the options. I know what we have now. I don't know what they threw out there, or whoever they is. So, and I just wrote some numbers down. That's all I have. Right now, the contract is 5 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday, which is what we have now. And I think many of us will agree that maybe we need a little additional help between the hours of 5 p.m. to 7. I think that's a little tough time because people are coming home from work. I think that's the problem times. Okay, so the numbers that I wrote down is just during the time period of January 1st of this year and November 18th of this year, that time period, we, not the contract hours, we, as our time, have responded 504 times. And in that 504, we only 22 times didn't get off the floor. I mean, that says a lot. We're one of the only towns around that has a volunteer agency, and we get like slapped on the back all the time and say, I can't believe that you guys still managed to run an ambulance. You're doing such a service for your community. And I said, I know, as long as we're able to do it, we want to keep doing that. Those are just our times. But as of last night, we did our 1,322 call last night. We also responded mutual aid to LaGrange because they had 3 ambulances out. I was actually on that call, so we were at Hudson River Housing last night. We do a lot of mutual aid calls. Arlington, Millbrook, and LaGrange, our mutual aid companies. We've also been called to do mutual aid to non-mutual aid. I've been to East Fishkill, that was a little crazy. Crazier was Beacon, that was even crazier. And I'm just, I guess I also know that the increase is going to put an increase in taxes on people. And I don't know if people really understand how much of an increase. I mean, it's going to be crazy high, depending how many more hours they add. Plus, on top of that, the ALS services are very expensive. People get charged like huge fees when ALS gets on our ambulance, anywhere from $2,500 to $3,400. They're going to get a bill for their services. And sometimes the ALS doesn't do much. Many times I tell them I really don't need them, and we all do. We all will say that because we know that that patient is going to get a huge bill on top of whatever hospital bills that they also have. What else? Because of the increase, because I volunteer at the food pantry, which is dear to my heart, I also got numbers from there, and as of between last year and this year, according to the numbers that I got from Steve, who runs it, there was a 72% increase in people needing food. That's a huge. We see so many people every Wednesday night. We cannot keep up. We get 1,500 to 2,000 pounds of food delivered on Mondays. It's almost gone come Wednesday when we give out all this food. So there's such a need of food that it's just going to get worse. And if people have to call an ambulance, they're going to think twice about calling if they know they're going to get these huge bills and their taxes are going to go up. So I guess what I'm asking is, I don't know what the whole thing is on the table, but I think, like I said, we could use help between 5 and 7. I don't know that we need weekend help, and I would hope that it would have been discussed with us, and if sometime down the road, I'm not saying this year, because once you put the contract in, it's a done deal, down the road, maybe next year, we say, okay, we need more help. But ask us, we're the ones that are up 2 o'clock in the morning running calls. I have probably been on almost 200 calls this year, as many people have, and I'm not willing to, I want to help the people. I don't want people to be charged all this money, and they're going to be. So I don't know what else I could say.
Sure.
Do you mind if I ask a couple questions?
Yeah.
I think once we untable this, there'll be a lot more discussion between us, which will
Okay.
probably fill you in on a lot of how we got to where we are today. But
Okay.
I'm guessing, so up to this point, have you or any of the other volunteers that staff the EMT side of the firehouse, have you had discussions with the, I guess, your board, the commissioners? Because as far as I know up to this point, that's who's come to us and who we've really been dealing with is the commissioners. And this is my first year, so I don't know if that's a normal thing or if normally we would be going directly to you guys, or is this a normal thing that the commissioners would come and I'm just trying to figure out because you're saying nobody's talked to you, but am I?
And I'm not saying me personally, this is all not me. This
No,
is
yeah, but
all.
it concerns
Yes.
me that we're getting different things from the folks actually going out and doing it than what we've heard. So, I guess in years past, it just surprises me that nobody's talked to the folks actually going out. So it kind of
Surprises me too. You would think that an agency that big, we would all get together as one and say, okay, do we need help? And yes, we do, yes, we don't. Ask the people who are running the calls. The commissioners are not knowing a lot of this stuff. And if it was discussed with others, I don't know that. I'm a lieutenant. I've been there for 19 years. I've been a lieutenant for probably 17 of it. And I would think that I should know something that was going on. When they need something, I get a phone call. I need this, I need that, and I do it. But you think I would have been included in the hours. And I'm just trying to save money for the townspeople.
So
this is all it's going to be.
in past years, were you included in any of these discussions?
A couple of times.
Yeah.
A couple of times. But I don't know what happened this year. And I do know also that in our last meeting, we got 5 new people that wanted to join the rescue squad. Applications came through. And we're happy with that. But again, the problem there is sometimes the whole process of all the stuff that has to be done takes so long, and it kind of gets dragged out that people get discouraged and leave.
Yeah.
But I don't want that to happen. That's happened too many times. And those 5 people that really want to be an EMT in the rescue squad, I'm going to make sure their applications really get pushed through. It should take a month. When it starts taking 3 to 4 months, people get discouraged and go elsewhere.
Yeah, that's
We
what I
could use
heard.
them.
It takes a while from
It shouldn't.
actually showing up and being able to do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then, how many people at the fire company right now are able to go out and take the calls in the ambulance as, I guess, EMTs, paramedics? I don't know what you guys.
Wayne, how many?
EMTs running, we probably have 10 people handling 95% of the calls.
And is that down? Like, are you guys, I guess, are you guys losing folks? Because I know it's kind of a core group of people that have kind of been this, the same
Yeah.
people since I've been growing up. So I imagine those folks are starting to say, hey, I'm going to retire from my job and I'm going to move out of the area.
Right.
Are you guys losing people more than you're recruiting people? Like, is
I
that
don't
an
know.
issue that you're
I think
seeing?
it's equal. I mean, like I said, we just got 5 new ones. We have a couple of other new ones. We have someone that just came back. I think things are looking a little bit better. Maybe that's me. Do you think so, Wayne? I mean, a couple of people have been like dormant, have
Well,
come
I
back.
think, let me just, I think a clear answer, and this is one that's been confusing me, because I've heard conflicting reports. The people that are there now, I keep hearing that they are burnt out. They're tired, and they're not making the calls, and that's what I'm hearing. And then I'm hearing from you here that you're not.
Well, I mean, I don't feel burnt down. I mean, maybe some people do, but we still, I think the consensus is we could use a little help, but I don't know what is out there, what they asked for. So I don't know what I'm talking about. Like Wayne, 5 to 7, I think that's a help. That's when people coming home from work. I mean, if I'm home, I respond. To get through Bower Road to the firehouse is like crazy because of the traffic. Sometimes I can't get there in time, and but it usually doesn't get turned over. But people will never be without an ambulance because if we can't get there, we have mutual aid. We'll always respond. So people are never going to be without an ambulance. That will never happen.
Is there, because I was actually having this conversation, because again, I don't know much about any of this, and somebody was asking me, if that's the case, let's say you can't get there and it goes out to mutual aid. I don't know how any of that works. Is there a delay in somebody getting to wherever they're responding? And if so, what would you say? Is it like a dramatic 30-minute delay, or is it like within minutes, the difference?
Well, when they dispatch us, they also dispatch ALS services. So we dispatch together. So also the other point I want to bring up is many, many times, and Wayne could even agree with this, we do not have ALS services. We had 7 calls on Saturday. We handled every one of them, and I would say out of the 7, 4 of them, we had no ALS services. They go through Mobile Life first, and they go, no units available, then they'll hit Northern Dutchess, no units, and they go to Empress, no units available. When that happens, we're on our own. And we're pretty much on our own a lot of times, and if there's a need to get a medic on, we could pull one from Arlington. As we go over we could call county and say, we need a medic from Arlington if there's a need. But many times there isn't an ALS, which again concerns me. If we can't get ALS services during regular times, because they always get dispatched, whether we need them or not, we'll turn them away, knowing they're going to get patient's going to get a big bill. If we can handle it, most of the time we do. But if there's none available for us now, how are they going to be available if we add more times on?
So I guess maybe that goes to more what they were trying to tell us, is that, so you were just saying over the weekend, you had 4 calls where you needed ALS.
Well, we didn't need them.
Or
They always get dispatched with
dispatch,
us.
but they didn't show up, right?
There wasn't any.
There wasn't any.
No.
So that might be kind of what they were getting at, maybe, is that,
Yeah.
so.
There wasn't any last night when we helped out LaGrange. We had mutual aid to LaGrange. All the ambulances were out on calls. I had 3 of them. They called us. There was no ALS for them. We would have went anyway, but they didn't have anybody also. No. But they always get dispatched, and we make the decision, do we need them or not? But they always simultaneously will get dispatched that way.
Okay.
Anyone? I'm good. Thank you very much, Barbara.
Okay. I
appreciate
Thank you for your
it.
comments, sir.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Anybody else?
Did anyone else want to speak?
I have pictures of our calendar where our duty crews are filled out completely. If you want to see those, I have those also.
Thank you.
But no place.
Did anyone else want to speak at all on the topic? Okay, great.
I'll make a motion, we close the meeting to the.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I make a motion that we untable Resolution 1104 of 2022.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So now, we've already made a motion second, so now it's technically discussion, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Can I, for the record, read something into the record?
Sure.
This was a letter that we received on, I think, Friday afternoon, from Commissioner Jim Albrecht. Thank you for the most recent dear Supervisor Delvecchio, thank you for the most recent communication regarding emergency medical services, EMS coverage in the town of Pleasant Valley. The Board of Fire Commissioners has spent considerable time reviewing the capacities of our EMS providers who volunteer their time serving the community. As we have relayed to the members of the town board, the status of volunteer EMTs and the Pleasant Valley Fire District is strained. Like many EMS agencies, we lack available personnel for daytime response. This has been relayed multiple times to the most notable in February, July, August, and October meetings with Supervisor Delvecchio. It has also been discussed in our August meeting where they came to the town board. We respectfully remind you that we have requested extended advanced life support ALS coverage from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday, and from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on both Saturday and Sunday. Currently, there is no guarantee of ALS coverage during non-contractual hours, and as a result, we are requesting for the ALS extended coverage to allow for the best possible coverage for our residents and community we serve. In an effort to find a more sustainable solution for the coverage of EMS and the needs for ALS, we once again propose moving forward with a joint EMS subcommittee. As you may recall, this was discussed at one of your meetings. It was our understanding that you were going to report back to the fire commissioners. To date, we have not received any communications from yourself or members of the board on moving forward with this committee. As a follow-up to one of our previous meetings, we respectfully ask that the town's website post volunteer opportunities for both fire and EMS personnel with the Pleasant Valley Fire District. As of writing this letter does not appear to be there. Please contact the Board of Fire Commissioners to move forward finding any solution that will work best for the residents of Pleasant Valley. Sincerely yours,
So,
Jim Albrecht.
For the record, that was on November 11th. That was this last Friday.
Yep.
I had spoken to both Melissa Lawler and Jimmy Albrecht the day prior from my house, as I was not in last week because I was ill. And I told them that we're probably going to discuss it today, what we're going to do, and which way we wanted to go. So,
Do you mind if I get recognized? So I think we share in the same frustration of not really being involved in the process. And I think there's a lot of confusion of how we ended up where we are today. So kind of going off the letter that we just received, remember, we were supposed to, this was on as a resolution without any discussion between the board at the last meeting, and thankfully we tabled it because there had been no communication with the firehouse. So I just want to give you an idea, and I think it's important for the public, the firehouse, and the commissioners to know, is that from that letter, I was surprised to find out that supposedly the town knew since February of this year that potentially we were looking at increased hours for coverage. And then from that letter, sometime over the summer, it was communicated again. And then as a board, I don't know about the rest of the board members, the first time I found out was when the entire Board of Commissioners showed up at the August 15th meeting. And that was the first time I had ever known that they were actually looking for any kind of increase. So even if it was only 5 to 7 or whatnot, it was never relayed to me, and I don't know if it was ever relayed to the rest of the board. But as far as I was concerned, the only thing that was ever mentioned to me as a board member was that there was questions about the company that was potentially covering the town now. It was never brought up that anybody was requesting more coverage. So the commissioners came, they spoke with Mobile Life that evening. At that meeting, our public safety committee consists of the supervisor and Councilman O'Hanlon. At the August 15th meeting, I made a motion. It was seconded by Councilman Mazzella They gave permission to the supervisor and Councilman O'Hanlon to have a sit-down with the Pleasant Valley Fire District to discuss this issue. Just for the record, that meeting didn't happen until October 13th, when I was called early in the morning, because unfortunately, Councilman O'Hanlon had some issues, and I was thankfully able to get there. It was not anything to do with Councilman O'Hanlon. I guarantee he would have been there. But that was over 2 months.
Yeah, actually, I don't, he's trying not to HIPAA violate me, but I was down with COVID at the time,
wanna-
and that's why
yeah.
Mike filled in for me.
I didn't want to put it out there, but, but we have to understand that was 2 months after the entire board actually knew what the fire department actually wanted. That meeting happened. So we lost an entire 2 months in between the,
I'll
will
wait.
finish, please.
Go ahead. Make it quick.
2 months. And then we sat down, and then we put out the RFP. And to Ms. Meyer's point, when she got up here and asked, well, doesn't this seem pretty late in the process? I completely agree. The problem we have right now is the RFP was put out not even a month ago. We got back what we got back, and we're kind of backed up against the wall at this point. And we don't have any wiggle room to actually have good conversations, I feel like, because it's been put off so long, and the budget's due, I think, this coming Sunday. So I wanted to put it all out there of where this started, supposedly back in February, and as a board, I didn't learn about this till the August 15th meeting. And then it seems like the first meeting actually didn't happen until the middle of October, so.
So to clarify that, all right, and clean it up, because that was put together as far as I'm concerned, as if there was negligence to some degree. There wasn't, all right? So in the beginning, when I saw that we had a company that was supplying us, might not be doing too well, was why I brought this up to the fire department. And I asked and requested meetings with the commissioner, Jimmy, and the rest of the commissions to find out what's the plan if this company can't provide us. And that was way back in February. And we discussed a little bit then, and we met again after that, and we met with another fellow, was a lawyer, I forget his name. He's like our consultant for the fire. Right. And there appeared to be, at that point in time, some more thought on the possibility that what if they default and we don't have that company. From that point on, we promised to meet again and commit after that meeting, we'd talk again, and then we decided to make subcommittees after we'd heard what the request was from the fire district that one particular night. So we created subcommittees, and to get the subcommittees together was a little difficult. And here we are. We know the problem, but then there's conflicting reports and of is there really a problem at all? I mean, whether the company that we were using, whether they're going to be in business or not. I think that was one of my biggest concerns. If we actually sign a contract with someone and they don't do the job that they're supposed to do, I was very concerned about that. So it's where we are now. Simple as that.
Honestly, whether they could do the job or not, Johnny, was not the issue here. That was not what we should have been looking at. What we should have been doing was listening to everybody. In the past years,
I was
have
listening
done
to
this-
everybody from day one.
Excuse me.
From day one.
I have done this in the past with Melissa Lawler, and she and I have never had this issue working with these people or together. We've met once a month for several months. Now, I know it was different this year, but it would have been no different. This should have been dealt with months ago. That's the bottom line.
I would also like to just add that we are not fire professionals sitting at this table.
No.
Right? So
Right.
we should be, as per the letter that I just read that Jim wrote to us, he asked us back in February. We need to stop pointing fingers. At some point, we have to just approve this, I think, but it comes to the point when it shouldn't be, we shouldn't be at the 11th hour and all of a sudden just being like, wow, that's the price that we just got. We've known about it since February.
That's not true either. The price
I
in
think he just
February
called you
was
a
not
liar,
even
Jim.
presented. Hold on, the price in February was not presented. The concern was presented in February. That was what my concern was, and that is why I requested the meeting with the fire department. There was no one thinking about it at all at that point, not one person. And I had brought it up, and then the thought process had been started. So,
So I just,
Melissa at that point said, if this is gonna come down to what, taking the ambulance over, more hours and stuff like that, it's gonna be $500,000.
right, correct. Well, essentially, if it was taken over by the one company, all of it would be around that number.
so I'm just trying to figure out why the rest of the board back in February was not told about any of this. I get it, you didn't have a price back then because we didn't put out an RFP because we didn't know about this till almost the end of August. So if the rest of the board was actually brought into your circle of what was going on, we could have had these discussions and we could have put out an RFP months ago. And what you're saying is that and I just want to make sure that I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt here. What you're telling us is that you did not know back in February that they were potentially asking us for more coverage. Is that what you're saying?
Not the fire department, no. They did not ask that question at that meeting. I had brought that, hold on, Jim. I had brought that up to everybody, that what would happen if we don't have the extra company? I don't want to say the name. What would happen if that happened and we lost them? And that's why I brought that meeting. No, there was no mention of them asking for extra coverage in February. That did not happen until basically the night they came up here. That was the first I heard of it. So when they came here that night and you actually asked that company, that was the first time that was mentioned at all, and that was the first time I'd heard of extra coverage. And I was under the impression that that was an easy thing to do at that point. And they seemed to think it was a very easy thing. I think they even agreed to it that night.
According to the gentleman standing there, he said, I'll get you the numbers if I.
Right, and
And he didn't get us
he
anything.
didn't get us anything, but he gave us a bigger bill for the coverage we have now. And so that didn't make any sense.
I think I'm just aggravated that between February and them showing up in August, this board didn't know any of what you're just talking about. And that's 7 months or 6 months. And we were left in the dark about, listen, you in passing multiple times said, I think we have an ambulance problem, but you never put it together a committee. And I don't want to speak on behalf of you guys, but you're both on the Public Safety Committee. Councilman O'Hanlon, did you ever have a meeting with the supervisor about this?
No, I did not.
Okay, so my point is that we need to be, if we're going to act as a board on behalf of the residents, I find it really aggravating that I'm being backed up against a corner now at the 11th hour, and then it's trying to, in all essence, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
Yeah,
I know what you're trying to
yeah,
do.
because
It's fine.
because it needs to happen because it's aggravating that.
It's quite all right, Mike. I get your point.
Yeah.
And I
So
think everyone
moving
else gets the
forward,
point. I could appreciate your point has been made. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. So here we are. What do you want to do? Point's been made.
Well, so, looking at the numbers, let's move on and let's actually talk about real stuff for a minute. Looking at the numbers, if we're gonna go with what the fire department's asking us for. Go ahead.
I just want to make a point of order, just to ask Emily.
We do not have to make this decision today.
No, I just want to be careful. We shouldn't be actually putting the numbers out there in case we
No.
enter into negotiations, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, you can discuss that in executive
Okay.
session.
I just want to make sure we're all on the same page, that we don't.
All right, so looking at the coverage we need as per the letter from the fire department, let's say it that way, okay? I see really no option. If that's what they're asking us for, and I said this at the last meeting, if the fire department is asking us for X, we have to pay for X. It's a public safety thing. At midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, if I have a heart attack or Joe Blow has a heart attack, I'm pretty sure they're gonna want ALS or whatever ambulance to show up, right? Like, period, end of story. I don't think we have an option. I think it's a period, end of story. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough time to really to come up with a viable solution as to how hard it's going to hit taxpayers, but that's another story. So I think we have no option. We have to go with the extended coverage, is my 2 cents. It's 5 a.m. to 9 p. It's exactly what I just read. It's 5 a.m. to 9 p.m., 7 a to 7 p. on weekends.
Yes.
So I think from what Emily said, is I think her approach is probably the smartest approach, and that's to not actually today award a contract.
Correct.
Because I definitely think that if we enter into negotiations with one of these companies, we could get a better deal for the taxpayers.
Correct.
But I do, again, agree with the fact that I don't know anything about going out and doing this. And listen, could the process have been maybe better? Sure. But from what we've been told is that we are having issues in these timeframes, and it's our responsibility to protect the residents. And if the professionals are asking us and telling us this, and we don't do this, so I think we need to come to some agreement here that we expand the services and maybe make some adjustments in the budget to adopt that, and then to, listen, if we have to tweak it to 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. and maybe, I don't know, maybe the conversation continues really extensively over the next week or two, and then we adopt the budget, and then we enter into an agreement in December at some point. But we can't, we all seem to agree that we can't stay where we are today, that we need to extend the coverage somewhat, so.
Okay, to condense this, since, on the advice of the attorney, she suggests that we do table this at this time, and we can make adjustments to the budget later, and I think that would be a really good idea at this point. I would like to make a motion that we table Town Board Resolution 1104, 2022.
It's already tabled.
No, it's not.
Oh, no,
Oh, we on
we
table.
took
That's
it
right.
off the table, that's why I said,
I second.
So I just want to have the discussion, are we all prepared by tabling this? And are all of our discussions done to move on to the budget, and we can have a conversation about changing any changes that we need to make to the ambulance line, I guess, before we table this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
All in favor?
aye.
Is everyone in the loop on what the billing issues were with Mobile Life? Because I did a little reading about that, if you all don't know what they
Well-
were doing wrong and
Yeah.
that they're not doing it anymore. They were billing people for the difference between what their insurance paid and what their bill was. And they're not going to be doing that anymore. So that hopefully will mean less cost for residents. But it may, have to do with why the costs to the town are
Went
going
up.
up.
Okay. So moving forward, the other tabled resolution was,
I make a motion on table resolution 1101 of 2022.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
So we have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion any further, other than what we just had?
Yeah, we need to discuss and make amendments to the budget if we want to make any changes before adopting it.
Yeah.
And if we could, is there any chance to have Melanie?
I'll go
She
get
was
it.
just here.
She had a phone call. I'll go there.
While we wait, Emily, if we make changes to this budget, so obviously right now, we don't know exactly what the plan is.
Right.
If we make a change to a line item in here, let's say we made it to the increased amount, let's say, even though we don't believe we're going to be spending that amount, and we adopt this budget, are we stuck at that adopted budget, or can we make a change to not take that much from the residents?
Right, so you can always amend the budget later. You do that throughout the year. The main issue right now is making sure that you are getting the tax rate where you need it to be, because that's what you can't change, right? So
Yeah.
if you put a number in and then you're able to negotiate a lower cost, you can certainly lower the number. If you need to raise the number later, if you have the funds available in the fund balance or in other funding sources, you can always raise the number later. So yeah, just like anything else, it can be changed.
And I believe Melanie did some of those numbers last week, and she said it just brings us closer to not have that buffer zone that we'd like to have for that tax cap.
And was it with the full amount for the,
She wasn't in her office, she wasn't.
She had
in
the
our
actual
office.
numbers, I think it
Okay.
brought us like about to
But our coat's on the chair.
300,000 away from,
the tax cap?
yeah. So we're not as safe, but we are okay.
She wasn't in her office.
You, I mean, you can, of course, also change how much fund balance you put towards the budget if you decided
Right.
to do that. And what I would suggest we do is whatever you decide, we just amend the resolution that's before you to be clear about, yeah. Also, if you needed to put this
So for those of you
meeting into
folks watching at
recess,
home,
you could do that, and, you know.
This is, we're just waiting for our bookkeeper. She's going to join us to give us actual numbers. No.
No. No, we tabled it, so we're gonna talk about it at another meeting. What we talked about is we're gonna potentially, with some resolutions, modify the budget to cover what we think is the probable cost, and then we can always talk with the ambulance separately, the provider and you guys, to figure out what really is needed this year versus what's really needed next year.
Don't need that, we can cover, and one more thing I just want to say,
Well-
people are telling us now, they do not want ALS on our ambulance if there's any way that we could avoid that, we do most of the time, they don't want that bill now. What's gonna happen down the road when they're there more times?
The
So I gotta-
problem is that you kind of conflicted what you said. At first, you got up and you stated that you didn't need ALS as much, and then this
No, I said
weekend,
we needed
you
it.
really needed it.
No, that's not what I said. I
Well,
said,
that-
ALS is not available many of the times, is what I said. And if we don't need them when they're dispatched to us, we do turn them away because we know if we can handle it, the patient's gonna get a huge bill. Many times we do turn them away, but they always get dispatched with us if they're available. Many times they're not available. That's what I said.
Right.
Yes.
Because they're struggling with fielding people as well.
4 to 7 calls this weekend. Yeah, they're struggling.
Yep.
And we're gonna pay to
All of
have
them are
there
struggling.
7 a.m. to 7 p.m., when they don't really need them from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., right?
Right.
Who's saying we don't need it from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., may I ask?
The people that run the
Is the meeting open to the public right
No,
now?
no, it's not actually.
Of the rescue squad came up with those.
Can I make a motion that we go into a 5-minute recess, let them chat? No, he's not.
I make a motion that we go into a 5-minute recess.
Yeah, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Give, yeah, we're, yeah.
I make a motion that we come out of our recess.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So, Michael, if you
Yeah.
just go to the stand and... My question was to you, would you say it's more important to have the coverage from the extended coverage from 5 PM to 9 PM, more so than it would be over the weekends?
Okay, and the concern is that when we need them and they're not available, that's our problem. We do turn our ALS coverage away when we don't need them because we know that there's a deficit in the county. So we do try to turn ALS away when we don't need them, and 9 times out of 10, we don't need them. But it's those few times that we do need them when they're not available. That's our problem. So we're looking for the additional coverage to assist. We're not saying that they're going to be doing the transport. We can still have our volunteers take the ambulance and do the transporting if ALS is not needed, because what's been happening lately is we're getting 2 and 3 calls back to back. The first one may be a priority 4, which is not as important, and ALS is handling it, and then a real priority 1 or 2 call comes in where you need ALS, and they're now not available because the backfill unit is not available or hasn't made it into Pleasant Valley yet. So our big problem is when we need it and it's not available, what do? So that's why the times were made from 5A to 9P, because it gave people time to get home from work, eat their dinner, spend some time with their families, and then from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m., we have duty crew coverage that is assigned and committed, and if we do need ALS, we can hopefully get that ALS coverage. We're also finding that there are additional times that we do need help on the weekends because people, again, as volunteers, people have lives and they're very, very busy.
Okay.
That's our concern. We just want to make sure that ALS coverage is available, and it is a major
Whether you need it or
challenge.
not.
Whether we need it or not.
But our situation is that bill is paid whether you need it or not as well. I mean, so, yeah, we pay for the extra coverage.
Absolutely.
You know.
You're paying for the ALS to be in town in the event of an emergency.
right.
That is correct.
So let me ask this question. If a company could offer the coverage between 5 PM to 9 PM, but let's say not so much on the weekend, would that be okay?
I think that we need to sit down with the commissioners like we talked about doing and having the smaller committee, kind of like tabling it just to be sure that that's something that we can agree upon as a group. I don't want to make that decision on my own.
But out of your professional,
I think
opinion.
anything would help. Yes, anything would help. I would agree with that. Anything would help. But there are statistics that show that these are the hours that we need the additional assistance. Doesn't mean that we can't handle it. It's just a matter of when these 2 and 3 calls hit back to back, that's when we're having difficulty. Because when you do have, if we had 3 priority 1 calls hit back to back, we're going to have a problem.
Right.
Because we're not going to get ALS coverage. We're going to need the assistance.
Okay.
And we do count on Arlington a lot, and they've been gracious enough to help us. So we thank them for that.
okay, thank you.
And by the way, I don't know if anybody realizes this, our town has the most amazing EMTs that are in our county, okay? It really, and they are so inundated with calls. I see calls come through on my, or hear them on my
Yeah.
husband's phone. It goes on and on and on and on. And I'm thinking, oh my God, it's 20 degrees out.
Yeah.
They're getting out of bed again.
And they're very well respected, and
yes.
and honestly, in the EMS community, Pleasant Valley has a very, very good group.
Right.
And we're handling it, we're doing
Yes.
it. It's just we're thinking about the future, and the concern is this is the way the call volume is going.
Right.
We're almost at 1,000 calls so
Right.
far for EMS this year, and we
Yeah.
know we're going to
It's-
break that.
It's overwhelming, and it's not to diminish anything they're
No,
doing.
not
It's
at all.
the fact that everybody
It's-
needs help.
It's looking at the
That's the way
future.
it is.
It's
Right,
looking
and
to the
it's way
future
that-
and just
right.
being able to provide
Right.
future coverage as well.
That these people came out on Christmas Eve last year and saved my son.
Mm-hmm.
End of story. They saved my son.
it-
He got a piece of shrimp in something, and his throat was closing up. And if Jeff Hickman didn't come in and speak to him the way he did, he'd have never made it.
I hate to interrupt here, but this meeting going on, Councilman Mazzella and I both have other commitments that we really need to get to. So since I don't think we should be voting on the budget with both of us being absent, is there a way that we can recess this meeting until this evening, until Councilman Mazzella and I can both be back in our chairs?
You know, I can't come back this evening. I could do another, I mean, we could adjourn this with, I don't know. I mean, I trust the three of you. Look, I do gotta go to work.
We're just going to.
Yeah, I know.
We're just really going to interject the new numbers.
The new numbers, that's it.
Yeah, so I
Okay.
get
And
it.
we will have a quorum.
Yeah,
All right, then if Councilman Mazzella is good with you continuing without us, then I
Here
am.
we go.
yeah.
And
I'm
just
good.
like that.
We're just stating for the record that Keith and I are leaving. I have to go to work. He's gotta go. Well, we trust the three of you.
Thanks, guys. I think it's important, just the
Yeah,
one thing
yes,
you had
go ahead.
mentioned earlier. So, again, I don't understand all of this stuff, but, so, over the weekends, one of the reasons, I guess what I'm gathering from everybody is, for example, she was saying that there was 4 times where they couldn't get, an ALS is dispatched with every ambulance, right?
That is correct. Every
So,
call ALS is
over the
dispatched.
weekend, there were 4 calls. Thankfully, we didn't need ALS, but they couldn't show up. So what you're saying to us is that in those instances, if ALS was required, one of the reasons you're asking for the weekend coverage is so if it was something that needed ALS, we've kind of proven that they're not available. But if we contract with them,
It would then be available if it was needed.
if it was needed.
That is the difference. And again, we've always said that there's a different level of care from 5A to 5P than there is from 5P to 5A. So it's a different level of care. Our EMTs are very, very capable, but the paramedics have the drugs to do what they need to do to administer to help in those situations in those priority 1 and 2 calls. That is the major difference. I would definitely be welcome for you to come down and talk to us as a side note, and we'll dig through all this data, which we were in the process of doing today. There's a couple of meetings going on today that we have to have that we're discussing all of these things to see if there was any way to change the hours a little bit and try to tweak it down. But this is the official stance that we were given, was the 5A to 9P and the 7 to 7 on the weekends.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Have a good day.
So Melanie, we would like you, if you could, interject the changes to the budget in regards to the fire ambulance, which we discussed last week,
Well,
where
As far as the tax cap goes?
tax cap and putting it into the budget itself.
well,
Didn't actually put it into the budget itself. Well, it's on, here, put it up here. Basically, it would not change the town tax. It's just going to change the ambulance tax. As you all know, on the tax bills, it's broken out between town tax and ambulance tax. So the town tax would not change. It's just going to change on the tax bills. You'll see a larger increase on your tax bill when you go to do your ambulance, when you pay for the ambulance one. As far as the tax cap goes, we still have money in there, you know, a little bit of a cushion that we're still not going to blow through the tax cap by upping the ambulance. Just to explain the tax cap a little bit, the fire department files their own tax cap and their own AUD. And the library, the same thing, their own tax cap, their own AUD. The town takes on the tax cap for the ambulance district and for the light district, although they are separated out on the tax bills. As far as the town's tax cap goes, we still have like a $500,000 before we hit the tax cap. And that's not even going over tax cap. That's just getting to the tax cap
and is that where we stand currently without adjusting the ambulance line?
without adjusting
Okay.
the ambulance line,
So
yeah.
then there's, and then you put the ambulance in, there's an extra 200.
The ambulance is in there at the.
Well,
At the lower
one
amount,
part of it is,
Yeah.
not all, not.
We haven't made any adjustments from,
No.
so I guess the question is, do we put in the budget the entire amount if we were going to extend the whole thing? Or do we put in somewhere in between, and if we needed to adjust, we could pull? So I guess Emily, or maybe Melanie, let's say we put in half the difference between where we are now and where we want to potentially be. Let's say we cut the difference there to maybe tax the residents less. because we kind of still don't know if maybe we're going to find a happy medium here somewhere. Let's say we ended up having to go the full route here. Is there a way to, obviously, we have to adopt the budget and we send out the tax bills the way they are, but could we use fund balance to cover, after we know the exact number, the deficit in that line item in the budget?
Yes, I believe so.
So shouldn't we
Emily-
just put it in for the full amount?
Well,
And then,
so.
I would rather come down if something,
So my concern is if we put the full amount in and we end up deciding on something less, which I think either way, it's going to be less because we're going to negotiate, even if we wanted the full amount. What I don't want to do, and maybe I'm a minority here, is I don't want to take a whole bunch of extra money from the residents, which then, let's say it's $100,000 less than what we put in the budget. We're then going to have an extra $100,000 that we've taken, and it's just going to end up going into the fund balance when we have money in the fund balance where we could adjust the opposite way.
you can adjust the opposite.
Well, that's what, and I think
what was
Emily.
it?
I would like to ask Emily, though,
Right.
as far as the contract goes, shouldn't it be whatever the contract they sign is what's on the tax bill that the residents are paying for?
I mean, not necessarily. What they need to have right now is enough money in the budget so that they can cover the, I mean, they'll need to, they would then need to amend the budget, I guess is what I would say. But,
Like a budget modification, I understand
Right,
that.
yeah.
But my question is, have you seen the tax bills, how they're broken down? Let me show you. This is just what my question is, because the amount of the ambulance, the contract is usually stated on the tax bill. That's why my concern is if they
Yeah.
sign a contract, it should be for the amount that we're telling the county that the ambulance is going to be.
That's what I was trying to say.
right, but, I mean, you could amend it, right? If you
Well, you
need
can't
to.
amend the tax bills.
No, I know. I mean, whatever budget you agree to, that's what's gonna go on the tax bill.
Okay.
But if you end up, the contract comes out different, I think that's okay. You're just
think
gonna.
that's okay?
I do. The only thing I'm wondering, is, I'm sorry, could we, this is like a lot of concentration here. I'm just wondering if we need to take money out of the general fund, can we put it into the ambulance district? Because it's a different, do you know what I'm saying? Yeah, but it's still townwide, so I think it's the
general
same.
fund can fund any other, but
It can't
the
come
other
back
funds can't
in.
come back
Yeah, that's
laterally.
my understanding too.
Well,
Okay.
does it change it that some of the ambulance district is also in the town of Hyde Park when we do a transfer of general fund to that
Well,
line?
your ambulance district is the town of Pleasant Valley. Hyde Park has its own ambulance
No,
district.
We share a little piece.
No, I understand that, but I'm saying the way it was created, because I looked at the map plan and report, it was created as two ambulance districts. One for Pleasant Valley, and then one for a little Quaker Lane in Hyde Park. And when you put those two together, it forms the shape of the Pleasant Valley Fire District. But your Pleasant Valley Ambulance District is the town of Pleasant Valley. It's one and the same.
Correct, and then
Yeah.
Hyde Park pays us
Right, exactly, right.
the same percentage as the fire budget.
Right. So in any case, the number of your contract with the provider is going to be different than the town of Pleasant Valley's share, because Hyde Park is paying some of it too. So,
No, because it goes onto their bill also, I believe.
right, yeah. I think we're saying the same thing.
Yeah, you are. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
All right, I just wanted to make sure that the contract doesn't have to be the same as what's on the tax bill. Okay. Cool.
So consequently, what you've already put in as an estimate is already higher, or basically what one company gave us with the higher result for the same coverage. So if we decided to make a change to more coverage,
This was the one that I based it on.
right,
This is the number that I was given, the 207,500.
Okay, so that, obviously, we need to make an adjustment, that needs to go up, because that's for,
yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
I know which one it is. I have it in front of me.
Yeah, it was on the resolution, so I think
yeah, it's public info that it's,
it was 207.
yeah, so I think we need to go, I mean, we all agree that it needs to be more hours than we are now,
It's gonna be
so.
more hours.
So do we do,
how much more do you want to go up?
well, that's the question, right? Is do we cut the difference in half between the high and the low? And then if we need to go with the high, we just do the transfer later on since we have the money already and not tax extra?
I would agree with that.
If that's allowed, if we can do that, I would rather do that.
Can I
would
point
rather
out
do
one
that.
thing? This is a 2-year contract.
Well, we would only be, I'm not sure about that. The way I've seen it in the past is that the proposal is for 2 years, but the contract is renewed each year.
Right.
Okay,
Is
yeah,
that-
I don't know, my understanding was that it was a 2-year contract, but I could be
Well,
mistaken.
again, these are proposals,
Right,
so these are not contracts yet.
correct.
So we
Right.
still have to negotiate. I agree with Michael, I don't want to go over too high, and we've taxed people too much, and then we have an extra 100,000 around. I would rather come about half the distance, and then we can make the modification from there.
So the difference is, so what if we did, right now it's 207, what if we did like 350? And then if we needed to go higher, we still have the money to go higher. Are you comfortable with that?
Now, is that 350 with the coverage we have now, or is that 350?
Well, it doesn't matter, we still need to figure that
Right.
out after this meeting, but that's going to cover what we have now.
And more.
And if we negotiated maybe some extra hours,
Right.
we'd probably still be under that. But it also gets us closer to if you guys negotiate with the firehouse and we need to go to the full
whole
amount,
amount.
we still we took some of it and we can do it with the fund balance.
Okay, I'm okay with that.
So I guess, do we need to make an amendment to this resolution for, I mean, you have all the other changes we made previous?
Right, and that was
So-
already approved, so Emily, I'm going
Well-
to defer to you.
So this,
By the way, you're right, it was a 2-year contract. Yeah,
It's okay.
sorry.
so I guess my question is we tabled this, we untabled this resolution. This resolution spelled out the changes we did at the previous meeting. Do we need to make an amendment to this resolution to include changing whatever line item to the 350,000?
Yes.
And where would that fall?
It would go under the resolved because the whereas clauses are things that are already in existence, right? So that includes the changes that you already made. But if you want to make a change now, I would add a new resolved clause saying that you're voting now to make another change. Do you know what I'm saying?
Okay, so do we have to make, do we have to make a motion to all agree that we're changing that line item to 350? And then once that's approved, make an amendment to this saying, whereas we,
No, you can do it right in this resolution.
Okay.
But we just need to make
Verbalize
a
it.
motion to amend this resolution to
Okay.
add a
So
resolved
how would you
clause.
verbalize that?
I just want to make sure the wording is
Yeah,
correct.
of course. The only thing I'm a little concerned about is we don't have a final version of the budget that you're voting on,
Well,
right?
can we have her just update it and then?
Yeah, I can go and update it if you want to do you want to do you want me to go with the 350? I'll go and change that, make that change, and I'll print it out for you.
I think that would be good, because
Yeah.
then you're
Okay.
voting on a
On
final
something.
document.
Okay.
Yeah,
No problem. Give me about 5 minutes.
sorry, I think that's better.
So I make a motion that we take a 5-minute recess?
Well, do we want to get the,
Well, we can't really amend
Right,
anything
right.
until, so,
so,
Mary seconded it.
motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So I make a motion, we come out of recess.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. So.
Can I just explain
What?
what we learned from the accountant just now?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
So, yeah, it is okay for us to put in an amount that is an estimate at this point. What would happen is if the final amount ends up being higher than this, we have to double check if you could actually move the money from the fund balance permanently from the general fund into the ambulance fund, but you could certainly lend the money from the general fund to the ambulance fund and then make it up in the next year. And likewise, if the final number is under this, then you would just end up with a surplus balance in the ambulance fund that would then be applied to next year. So it's.
Put it back into the A fund, it has to go towards the ambulance fund for the following
Right.
year. Debit charge and over.
Right.
Oh,
So we were just double checking that there
Yeah,
isn't
but that's highly
some-
unlikely. We're really coming underneath.
Then we can lend it.
Yeah. So the upshot is that it's okay if the final contract does not match the number in the budget. We would just adjust to the following year.
Okay.
I also did a quick calc on the tax cap, and by raising this, we still have $380,000.
Can you use the microphone? Thanks. What, is this not right?
I said after I ran the budget, I did just a real quick rough calculation on the tax cap, and we still have a $380,000 cushion in our tax cap. So we're fine as far as that goes.
Thanks, Melanie.
That's 20, yeah, this is.
So, is everybody okay with this?
Yep.
Because I can make so I'll make a motion to amend Resolution 1101 of 2022. So we'll add, after now therefore be it resolved,
I'm sorry, did we untable it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
we'll add another resolved in there that the town board of the town of Pleasant Valley has adjusted the appropriations for the total ambulance district to a total of $350,000.
Second.
And Emily, is that good wording for it, or do we need?
Yep, that'll be the first resolved clause
Okay.
in the resolution.
Awesome.
So that adds to the other changes that were approved at the last meeting.
Okay.
So I second it.
1 second. Are we sure we untabled it? Now I'm
Yeah,
questioning,
because we wouldn't-
because we tabled it, then you said we come out of,
She'll have that
do you
the
have?
clerk will know that.
The last time I know, we tabled it again with Keith and John.
Wasn't that the ambulance?
Yeah, wasn't that?
I think that was the ambulance.
Oh, okay, that's separate from the budget. I'm sorry.
We're good?
Okay.
Okay.
I thought we had to undo that too. All right.
So we have a second, all in favor?
Yeah. All in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
And then we already have a motion and a second for adopting the budget, so.
We have a motion and a second, So all in favor for adopting the budget?
Aye.
Aye.
I make a motion that we adjourn?
I second that, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.